Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid lazy negativity, we've decided to make this here a little bit of a drinking game.
Yes, we have.
Simple premise, people. Anytime we say anything negative at all, anything negative at all, you can hear this sound. That sound means that we have to take a drink. And we hope you drink along with us.
So pour yourselves a glass, but for fuck's sake, don't drink it just before this movie because it's 3 hours long and IMAX theaters are not easy to sneak out of.
3 hours, 12 minutes. Cheers, guys. Pre-show shot. Let's do it. Shot of whiskey down the pipe.
Also, while we're on this, fuck you, AMC, for selling sodas before a 3 hour movie filled with running water.
Honestly,
and only having three fucking urinals.
Designed to make you pee.
You just showed us two and said three, so for that. That's right, people. We are, of course, going to be talking about Avatar: The Way of Water. The movie
gags on a podcast.
Avatar: The Way of Water. The movie that reminds us it's so much better to be friends with whales than humans.
Dude, yes.
Yeah.
Whales look fucking cool.
Dude, my wife came and saw this with me, and every fucking fish they showed, she's like, I want one.
Yeah. Wait, you know what though? I'm gonna stand up. A little bit of fish advocacy here, okay? Whales, other fish have no biological connection to them other than the fact that they can breathe using water. So if a bumblebee is not a bird, not a whale and a tuna and a guppy and a clownfish are not all the same. They're not all fish. I want to be clear about that.
Yeah. Whales mammals?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We're also not talking about whales or fish because it's a different planet. So I don't know what the fuck that would be called.
It's me. All right, fine. I'll play real. All right. People, if you're new to the podcast, thank you so much for joining us. We try to keep it spoiler free for the first 10 minutes or so you can get our initial takeaways, what we thought, what we felt about the film, unlike those stuffy critics who you're going to hear more about in a second.
Oh, no. I sense a gripe.
I'm going to keep it under a minute. I'm going to try without. Also, I apologize ahead of time. I re-listened to our Avatar 1 episode, and to anybody listening on any speed more than one, in fact, to anybody who's listening on 1x speed, I'm sorry.
Me too. I'm sorry. That's my most shameful episode. Dude, you and I were blitzed. I was
just shouting at you. I wouldn't let it go. I was living in a time.
No,
I wish we had this button.
Back.
Shut the fuck up, Jeff. Yeah, the world premiere of that one. That was good.
We had made special for you this week, just in case it happens again.
Shout out to the Corona franchise face-off.
That was not the face-off. That was the year the movies of 2009. Movies of 2009 year. We did that. District 9.
Yeah.
District 9.
We did District 9. And this Avatar was actually in our Was It Really That Bad segment. So we did District 9, and I forget what else we did.
Mainly because everyone
Dave was
bagged
the
out.
first.
Everyone went and saw it and spent $1 billion watching it and loved it, and then bagged the shit out of it on the internet later.
Well, so my question was, does it hold up on Disney Plus? And for the most part, we said yes. Yeah, we agree about the story stuff, but we thought it still held up.
Yeah, I think so.
Even though any criticism John said, I told him to go fuck himself over and over.
Yeah, no. Well, and it wasn't valid. I'm an asshole. Go back and listen to that episode, folks. Little 7 Degrees, Kevin Bacon, but instead of Kevin Bacon, Weta. Was Weta as involved with the first Avatar?
Dave?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I thought ILM was the first Avatar. We'll have
Me
to check
too.
that.
So I think it's cool that District 9 was.
Oh, cool.
And now we've come full. That's funny that we talked about both those movies. And I think you could.
Yeah, I think
there was a giant leap forward.
Weta was the only place that would give him a room for that fucking long.
I know,
James Cameron, ILM guy.
He's fucking like releasing like 25 years of studios. Let's do it. Let's fucking go, Jeff.
All right, so let's shout our. We're gonna get into Avatar, people. I promise. And then at the end of the episode, we're gonna give you some reviews. Some recommendations in our segment, "What You've Been Watching," where we tell you what we've been watching. It is the Christmas season, so we'll see if we get any Christmas or Hanukkah movies on the list. And Dave, it was your birthday this weekend. You were very drunk when I saw you on the night of your birthday. So
yeah,
let's see
just
if you've seen
unrelated
anything,
to
but
that. Should we maybe not do the drinking game tonight?
Happy birthday, Dave. Actually, cheers officially.
Cheers.
I didn't get to be with you as on the
let's
other
get
coast.
one more pre-show
Happy
shot.
birthday,
I turned 50 and drank like a 20-year-old, and then learned a few things about why you don't do that.
Actually, you drank like two 25-year-olds. That's what's up.
Dave's definitely out drunk every single one of us. John, let's shout our sponsors out really quick. Speaking of beer.
Speaking of beer, his name, the legend, the great, the myth, the man himself, Carlos motherfucking Barroso. You can find that guy on Instagram, cbarroso.beer, CBARROZO.beer. Give him a handle. Give his handle a motherfucking follow. We also have some music provided by the artist Dasein on this episode and every single episode. That's Dasein, Dasein. All of his music is available for free on all of the music platforms. A new piece launched recently. I mentioned that the other day. It's doing really well. I suggest taking some time and listening to it. It's fucking awesome. Nescient is the new piece. All right, let's fucking do this,
it.
dude.
All right, so Avatar in 1 second. The final little bit we have to get through is our weekly gripes, our gripes of the week. We set the 1 minute timer and we just get some shit off our chest so that way we don't, bog down the rest of the episode with our shit. But I promise we're going to get to Avatar right after this segment. So stick with us, folks. This is our lives. This is what we're going through. John, you're in North Carolina. Congrats. You're back in the mountains. Do you have a gripe for us today?
I do have a gripe. Go ahead and hit it.
Here we go.
To the fucking assholes who sat beside me
Jesus.
at the 10:45 p.m. showing at the Grove in Los Angeles, seats H17 and 18. You motherfucking cunts talked through the entire movie in a foreign language. So I also didn't feel like I could really say anything because I didn't want to be rude because I didn't know if it was just a culture thing, but you talked the entire time. It was unbelievable. I didn't know some people could talk for 3 fucking hours, but you guys fucking whispered and talked full-throated to each other the whole range for fucking 3 hours.
I'm sure shut the fuck up translates to any language.
Yep.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Sorry, personal, but that is my gripe. That's
It's okay.
it.
This
Jeff,
is for all of them.
Yes, all of you. What the fuck?
Oh my God. Sorry to hear about that. Dave, you have a gripe for us today?
I had a couple behind me that I thought were going to be like that, but they weren't. It turned out they only commented when, the comments they made were reactions. So it was kind of good.
Yeah, Batman comments are okay.
Yes. All right. My gripe is not movie related. It's science related.
All right, let's do it.
Ooh.
Science has come up with all of these wonderful things vaccines for this and vaccines for that. And not once have these motherfuckers developed a better hangover vaccine than yellow Powerade. Where is my fucking hangover vaccine? It took me a day to recover from my birthday this year. Possibly a day and a half. I might still be in recovery. I'm not sure. Where is my fucking hangover vaccine?
Hair of the dog, baby.
That's what this show's for, I guess.
I love it.
Glass of V8 and 2 raw eggs just cracked right inside it. There you go.
Science make my life better. I love it.
Yeah, science. I know you discovered fusion recently, but get your shit together.
Hey, science.
What are you, Republican?
Honestly, dude, personifying an entire study. I love it. Jeff, what do you got, I've been waiting all week.
Here we go.
All right, so last week I bagged Jesse Green of the New York Times for being a total cocksucker about his review of K-pop the musical, and he knows what he did. People Google K-pop producer's response. Get at it. Now, Owen Gleiberman, it's my turn to come after you, motherfucker. That's right. I clicked on. He writes for Variety. I've been following him for years because I had Entertainment Weekly. I read it cover to cover, and he was their chief movie critic with Leah Greenblatt. And now there was an article that was 5 worst movies of 2022, which already it's like,
yeah,
but
we hate these.
But it had Amsterdam on the poster, so I was like, oh, this could be a pretty good list, right? Because Amsterdam was number 1, and you know what? He's right. But in that top 5, number 5 was 3,000 Years of Longing, which I was very disappointed that he put that in there. And number 3 was Bones and All, which Dave and I just saw. The number 3 worst movie of 2022, which, by the way, has an 83% Rotten Tomato score among critics, and the audience review is very favorable. And he starts it out with this: what if they made a cannibal Youthquake fantasy and nobody cared? And nobody cared. This guy loved Tar. Nobody saw Tar. I don't see him giving a shit that nobody saw that. I'm going on. I don't give a shit. So this motherfucker shamelessly is dragging movies that are well received and well liked simply because he didn't like them. The subjectivity that is getting in these critics who are abusing the privilege they have of seeing movies ahead of time and telling them whether or not we should see them because he was bored. It's the worst movie. Fucking Morbius came out this year. How is that? How is this on the list? And that's it makes absolutely no sense. 3,000 Years of Longing, same thing. Fine, you're a little bit bored about it, but there's 2 different kinds of out of touch for critics. Number 1 is out of touch. Like, this movie's so good, we should give it Oscars, even though nobody saw it. That is an out of touch that I think is okay because they know more about cinema than somebody that just wants to go masturbate in the back of a nudie movie. I get it. That makes sense.
Once.
But this kind of out of touch, I know it's almost lazy for me to say out of touch, but this is really out of touch.
And it was the front at Sonic.
That's really that shit and nobody cared. Nobody saw fucking Fablemans either, but I don't see him dragging that. This is just totally taste. It's totally subjective. Worst makes it seem like it's objective. It is subjective. Say it bored you, but don't tell us it was the worst movie, Owen Gleiberman. That's fucking lazy. And it's Variety is so much worse off because you write stupid shit like that.
Also, why are we focusing on the negative? Like, why are we getting so many of these worst movies of the year?
I get that it makes clips. I get that it makes clips. But I need to see your shame.
Stop being fucking negative. My favorite movies of the year. Do that. Everybody click that. You'll walk away. You'll either agree with it or not, and you'll feel good. And you don't have to be a bitch, basically.
Exactly.
And especially in this climate, the thing that we always try to say is like most of these are still worth going to see. And like I don't know if I would want to tell anyone not to go to a movie theater when nobody goes to movie theaters already. Why would you incentivize people to be like, yeah, movies do suck? Like, this is why I don't go to the movies.
His whole fucking industry depends on people going to the movies. So if you take a movie that definitely some people would like, I don't care if they're kids, but if you're sitting there saying movies suck, these movies suck, and this is the only person that gets the screeners and gets the right reviews about them, then people aren't going to read reviews, and then we're going to have what we have now, which is we have a lot of people that say no good movies came out this year. Yeah, they did. You just don't follow the critics because you're out of touch with them. People don't know that The Fablemans came out or it's autobiographical about Spielberg. People don't know about The Phantom of the Opera, which we thought was charming, or Mrs. Harris Went to Paris, or Vengeance.
I feel like this year was our most positive year ever.
I loved this year. My list is it's really hard to come up with my list because I loved so many movies.
British film, horror film, you name it, everything.
Barbarian was great. X and Pearl was great. Prey came out this year and that was great. There's so many good movies, and because
everything
of people,
everywhere. Bardo, Blonde, Tar. It's unreal.
Blonde's questionable.
And then when any of these movies can just be, and when any of these movies, even 3,000 Years Long, fine, it didn't land for you, but you can't say it was one of the worst movies of all time. George Miller spent 4 years to make this movie. Like, there's no way that it's one of the worst movies of the year.
We said this. Who's this fucker? I'm going to punch him.
Owen Gleiberman,
I'm not going to do that.
He's been a critic for decades, but it's like,
we'll get not banned off Twitter if I say that.
I was going to ask you how long he's been writing, because this is the kind of writing that you could get away with in the 90s when people saw movies every weekend regardless. You're just trying to steer them because movies open and stayed in theaters for a lot longer. And they came out in a newspaper next
to a giant ad of it.
This is not helpful right now.
Yeah, it's so unhelpful.
I'm glad you brought it up, man.
And now we'll segue into Avatar. Thank you for letting me go over time, because there is reasonable critique to be had with Avatar, regardless of how we all came out of that. We know that. We knew it about the first one. There's no way that this movie, unless they completely reinvented this imaginary world, which he wasn't going to do, there's no way that some of the same criticisms from the first were going to translate into this. But actually, I was inspired because I read very briefly. Generally, the reviews of Avatar: The Way of Water are positive, but there are some, and people, it must be clickbait. Like, here's one: astonishing, enthralling, exciting, immersive. None of these words can be sensibly applied to the 3.5-hour wet Smurfahontas Stodgeathon that is Avatar: The Way of Water. And this was a top critic. This is a top critic. He said Smurfahontas.
That is so uncreative and, a little bit racist.
A top critic said Smurfahontas. Yeah, it's fucking racist, and I'm pretty sure it came from Australia.
I did just laugh a little bit on record. I mean, it did make me laugh.
We laugh at the absurdity of that we're living in a farce. I mean, Trump is president. Like, we can laugh at these kinds of things, But to say immersive, this can't be applied. Exciting, this can't be applied. Bro, people rode a whale. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I'm not allowed to say astonishing. This is the best 3D technology that literally has ever existed, and I can't use the word astonishing? What the fuck has happened to criticism in this world? Oh my God, movies are so fucked. Thank God people don't pay attention to these.
It's like the Simon Cowell shit. It's like that became the popular thing to do, which was to rag on people, and they know that people are going to read it if you're ragging on it simply for the experience of, aren't they bitchy?
Right.
And it's wrong. It's 100% wrong.
Simon Cowell wasn't the first, but I've never, certainly at no
point
did I know 30 million people tuning in to see if they agreed with the shitty guy.
We should start a podcast where we talk positively about films and drink. If you know what I mean, honestly, we are a breath fresh air. Every time this comes up, it does make me realize like I'm very happy that we're doing this, just because there's so many the clickbaity kind of things. I'm even when you're listening here, I'm having trouble like trying to think of movies where we would say like explicitly like you shouldn't go see this. We usually still critique things, and if we don't like them, we still usually say it was worth seeing and you should go decide for yourself.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, the only movie I've ever said turn off was made in the 70s. So
nobody made us watch Stay Hungry. Yeah,
All right. This is relevant to Avatar, though, because we should get in, and there is reasonable room for criticism if that's the.
Of course.
Mark, I love Matt's thing. He was like, similar to the first thing for me. It was brilliant. Could have used more story, whatever. It was fun. Go see it. Talk to you later. Like, that's great. That's like, I love that. And sure, if you actually think a movie's bad, great.
I bet you they didn't say it that quickly.
Actually, it was really quick. It was really quick. No, I was like very proud. They have 2 hours.
Actually, they probably did say it that quickly, and then they talked about something else, and then something else, and then something else, and ended up going away from it for hours.
What would have been a 2-hour podcast into a 30-line, not even 30-word. Okay, let's talk about this movie, guys. Thank you.
That is why you listen to the Mad Mark Movie Show. Mad Mark Movie Show, you want to hear them just get on a tangent and fucking just roast each other and fuck with each other, take the piss out of each other and talk about shit. God, they're fucking hilarious.
I love the list. We went back and forth. The Matt loved Banshees, and I'm pretty happy about that. So, James Cameron, I think this is his...
Banshees, we didn't list that earlier. What a great movie.
I think it's my favorite of the year. Okay, so James Cameron... co-wrote and directed. There's 5 story credits and 3 screenplay credits on this, but James Cameron had his hands, his paws, his fins, his gills all over this one. He decided to take Avatar on the planet of Pandora underwater, as the title suggests. We'll get into that soon. But I think you know the deal. We got Sam Worthington back as Jake. Who is that? I still don't know. Zoe Saldana, Sigourney Weaver, sort of. Stephen Lang, kind of. Kate Winslet. I'm sorry. I got to say it, even though that it surprised some people in the audience behind me who still didn't know, but we're saying it on the podcast. Kate Winslet was in this movie, all mocap, and you know the family, and some other surprises.
When James Cameron calls and goes, "Hey, come and do this voice," it's like,
voice. She threw her body into that. You know, she put on those. She put on the suit.
Well, yeah, all those scenes are mocap. That's for sure.
Yada yada yada. You get it. You know what the drill is. So here's the IMDb pitch before I send it over to you for your initial takeaways, your initial reactions. What did you think? What did you feel? Jake Sully lives with his newfound family formed on the extrasolar moon Pandora. Once a familiar threat returns to finish what was previously started, Jake must work with the Neytiri and the army of the Na'vi race to protect their home. Without further ado, what'd you guys think? 3D IMAX for both of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went Lincoln Center 3D IMAX.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Go for it, dude. You just
Dave saw it
right?
today.
I saw it today. I was in row E, so that thing filled my fucking world.
Row D is all I could get. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, it was like, as well. It was like,
I got used to
this sold like a Marvel movie, so it was like impossible to get tickets last minute.
Sold like a Marvel movie. The Marvel movie sold like Avatar did 12, 13 years ago.
Yes, it did. I went into this. I was like, when they first announced these, I was like, who asked for this? Nobody really asked for this. Then he took like 9 years or something, and I don't know. I went in thinking, am I going to enjoy this? Is this going to be more of the same? And it does start with a little, Tourism New Zealand video of Pandora, and I'm like, oh, okay, shit, we're just getting more of the same. And then just when you think that, it's like fucking boom, they introduce a whole other postcodes, and you're out in like different sections of the world, and it was just beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. Plot wise, they kept it simple. I didn't mind that. At all. There's not much new in the plot. They definitely set up a couple of interesting character choices I'll talk about later that I'm curious at seeing the result of. Mm-hmm. But I felt like this had more stakes than Avatar, to be honest, because there was a couple of like human elements, human decisions there that were made that I want to see the outcome of. I loved it. I thought it was well paced. A couple of people exiting my theater didn't. That might be because they took the soda upgrade. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Not kidding. Your back teeth are floating by the end of this. You're sitting there like, I can't miss the end. Like dancing in your seat, but you stay. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. Technology I'll talk about later, but holy fuck, dude, I will talk about it in a positive manner. I thought this was great.
it's nuts.
This is
I can't wait to
3
talk
hours of complete and utter escapism
3 hours
with
and 12 minutes.
the color ramped up to like 25 out of 10.
Can't wait to talk to you about the frame rate thing that I'm sure you know more about than.
Yeah, it was very noticeable. I'm excited to talk about
There's
that
a couple of times it didn't sit well with that projector, did it?
No, I want to talk about it. I think
thought it was
everybody's
intentional, but
noticing
maybe
it.
not.
I'm wondering, did they just not have time to
That's the
re-render a couple of elements?
Not
That's
enough time.
literally what I thought. We'll get there too. That's literally what I think too. Anyway, what Matt said. I think ultimately that's my takeaway. Like it's fine, you know. Like I
Oh
still,
my God,
even
that's
though
funny.
that there's so much.
It's funny. I
of
was going to
this-
let that go because you're like what Matt said. If you said what Mark said, I would have gone straight like.
Oh no! Did Mark fucking shit on it?
No.
Oh my God, I gotta hear it. Yeah, there's like an hour and a half of this movie where it's not really moving plot forward, and you know I'm a huge proponent of like when movies find creative ways to tell a story through other means than plot. So, you know, it's not that I'm going to like generally try to criticize that. But that being said, there are absolutely times when this movie does feel like there's a creator behind this who wants to put you more in the world than tell you a story about the world for about half of this movie. However, because he does that and he does it so well and it's so immersive, the stakes of the story when it does kick in again, it's like it happens at the beginning and then it kind of kicks in again at the end. You know, you do feel it a little bit more because he did such a good job of building the world. So if you have the patience and you're a fan who likes Pandora and the Avatar thing, I think you're going to be very satisfied with this. The technology, which is the hook here. I completely agree with you, Dave. He is not breaking new ground with story at all. This is classic, just like the first one. He is not trying to do something new at all on the page. Everything technologically and filmmaking wise feels new, feels like it's happening for the first time. So if you want to have that experience, I'm not saying this necessarily in a negative way, but it is, I do think it needs to be said. This was the most I think I've ever felt like I was in a theme park ride versus a movie. Like it didn't feel like cinema to me. It felt like something else. It felt like I should be at Disney World and this should be like, here's the newest technology that hasn't made its way to motion pictures yet. And you're getting to like sit inside this immersive thing and watch this new way to see 3D and performance capture, which was a lot of it really was absolutely seamless. We'll talk aesthetically about whether or not it worked aesthetically for me a little bit later, because it all kind of feels like high def, and that's kind of where he's going with this technology, and it kind of feels like you're there. It doesn't feel like you're watching, you know, a movie. You can't, the depth of field is changed because of it. The way objects interact with other objects is it doesn't use the concepts that a lot of traditional 2D filmmaking relied upon to create beautiful aesthetics. And because of that, it's like it creates this whole new language. But again, it's extremely effective. So I still think if you're going there for story, you might be a little bored for half of this movie. If you're going there to just live in Pandora and trust that he's eventually going to pinch your emotional buttons and, you know, get some family-oriented storytelling in there, you're going to get it. But that was a very long way of saying I think I totally agree with what Matt said. About half of this was not story, and I didn't wish I knew it going in, but I was a little aware of it about 90 minutes into swimming around with whales.
Great.
Hovering on the button right now.
I'm with Dave. There are things in the story that I'm happy to get a little critical about with you, John, soon. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. For me, it's world building. You know, I got to believe the worlds. Even plot means nothing to me if I don't believe the world. Which of course that's not like a, you know, brave thing to say, but and of course just world building isn't enough, because you're right. I've done theme park rides that have gotten bored of afterwards. There was I kind of wish he went a little further with certain little things that I'll talk about in a second. But as far as just living and existing in the world, I'll just say the best review I can give is that when they were doing this, I'll just say world building again, in this new place, you know, which was, character development, but not like, I always use Game of Thrones as an example, but like you don't realize how the plot is moving forward sometimes but it is. You realize it when it's too late. Like the Arya and the Hound storyline. It seems very slice of life until you realize what was been building for 6 episodes, and you're like, oh, that was plot. I didn't even realize it. You know, it was like masqueraded as just a slice of life. In this case,
and in other times you're going like, can't see him.
Yeah, get out of here. My TV look great on my TV.
Ah, fuck. Yeah, that's because your TV was set in fucking sports mode.
Good call, Jeff. No, I disagree with I agree with what you're saying.
So there was, in this case, it was a lot of character development to help with the conflict when the conflict comes. But again, what I'm trying to say is the best compliment I could give is when the conflict came, I was bummed.
In a good way.
Yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, damn it. I wish we didn't have to do that. I wish we could just keep this going.
I feel like this was so long because he made you live in that world, and then they relocated. He made you like the forest sequence was to let you get to know the family, and they did that well. You cared about those kids. You cared about like them as a family, and you would. And then they were like, we've got to save the family, so they went to the new area and they spent time getting to know. Like they went through the whole training thing with the water, but that was mainly to get you invested in that location and their connection with nature and everything. So when all of that was threatened, you had a slightly more visceral reaction. I think they pulled that off.
I think so too. What I would say to about the story is I pictured this like the Renaissance of Disney. You know, basically the Little Mermaid through the Hunchback. You know, that era of Disney. I do think some of those stories were just a little bit cleaner and a little bit obviously more concise. You know, they didn't need an hour of Timon and Pumbaa for us to like get into what that was. Although there are some kind of Quasimodo and Timon and Pumbaa elements of this as well. I think there's some crossover to be had. But I looked at it as that way. The story is very, very simple because the point of The Lion King is essentially Hamlet. The point of this is the first one was very much military nature versus the military, really.
Well, it was about the environment.
I mean, this one still is, but this one is way more about acceptance, way more about why do we choose? We said this earlier. Why do we choose our differences to be the things that define us rather than our similarities? Also, if there is a religion, it should be the planet centric. Any religion that doesn't come planet first doesn't make sense. Anything, and I think that last one with Home Tree was like a little too simple. It was a little too Fern Gully for me. Whereas this one. Even though it's simple,
Gully
it's
is
very
going to be
Disney
referenced forever.
Yeah, but I mean that's what this is. You know, even more than Pocahontas. But I think that just James, and I'm sure he sleeps very well, of course, because he has tons of money and he's spent a lot of things that were made using industry. But he really does love the planet. He cares about it and he cares about its people. And I think he does still have some dated, I think, ideologies that come through here, which I want to talk to when we get to spoilers, specifically when it comes to certain characters. And I'll just tease. I think he could have really done himself a great service of killing.
Don't say it. Let's hold off.
Anyway, there is
wow.
What I'll say is there is a point to this movie that is more than a continuation of the last movie. The response of the last movie was indigenous cultures saying, thank you, we've been saying this for years and nobody listens to us. And then they see our movie and then they question it. And of course the world's changed for the better and everything's great now. No, but now it's more about acceptance, bringing people together, and so I'm not saying that makes this movie a good experience necessarily, but it worked for me and I was rooting for it in a way that was very emotionally investing. And that's what I think.
But there's also that cautionary tale thing as well. Like they thought they'd won when they made them all leave. They thought they'd won, so they took their hands off the wheel. We're safe, and it's like you can't like in that particular way. If you're fighting for a goal that big, you can't stop. You can't take your hands off the wheel and go, no, it's okay, we're done, we've won the fight. There's always some motherfucker that will poke their head up and go, no, you have won the fight.
How meta is that for James Cameron? 2 points. Jeff, to what you were saying, it is something that I kept having to remind myself because we can't forget as a viewer that this is a part of a serial, ongoing, linear story taking place on this planet. So half of my issues with maybe the story things that did feel like they were servicing the serial journey of course it has to be there because he is trying to connect this over 5 movies. That's insane, but he's trying to do that.
Knock it down to 3, right? At this point.
I mean, that'll depend on how this goes.
They're already working on 4. I've heard. I have friends who know people who are working on it, and they're apparently that's the best one. Word on the street is they didn't get any notes back from the studio, and everybody's obsessed with it. Everybody who's working on it says
the studio's distracted.
One.
They'll come through one year before the release.
What point, do you think after a page like 1200, they were like, just do whatever you want?
I mean, it's Fox Searchlight, which is now Disney, so it's
the other thing I wanted to say,
the Disney money about halfway through their production period.
Yeah, no, they're fine. They're going to make their money back. The other thing I wanted to say was that
they already made their money back.
The number one reason that I think most people should go see this movie, and I had kind of forgotten that I got this kind of catharsis from the first one. I had some gripes with the first one, and everybody was so hype about it, and I was a little bit of a nihilist about it. So for sure, I was trying to fight it, but I felt this feeling on the first one. I definitely felt it this time. If you want to take out your rage against the human race, this is James Cameron getting fucking even with what the fuck is wrong with humans. There is so much catharsis on what we do and how we live and how we apply all of our best, I'm not giving away crazy spoilers here, but the fact that there is a scientist on the ship. So even with our best intentions, how we are always roped into the bottom line and how that is dictating everything we do and how that is almost always catastrophic for our environment, wherever we are, whoever we're dealing with, whatever we're dealing with. It was extremely cathartic. The last hour of this
about the
movie,
marine biologist?
Yeah.
Played by Jermaine Clement as well, I might add. That was a great little cameo.
The last hour of this movie is going to make you feel like this is really, really great. I also think, and I can't get away, we can't get away without saying this. I did feel a little bit, and I don't blame him for this. I think James Cameron just wanted to get back in the ocean. I felt very much that a filmmaker who loves water wanted to justify his story so that he could go back to it. And we know we're at least going to be signed up for some water for at least another one with the way that this thing teased it out. But I felt some homages to a lot of his early work, Abyss and Titanic.
Come up at all for this or what?
Good God almighty. I mean, I was seeing some of the same shots, but what's fucking crazy?
I think Spider actually watched Titanic because he really understood the aerodynamics of, not aerodynamics, the buoyancy, hydrodynamics and buoyancy of boats sinking.
But even that, you have a director who has been working with this kind of a visual theme, like the ocean and things, a lot of action happening in the ocean. He did shots in this that were breathtaking with shit started hitting the fan, and we started seeing visual language of a ship sinking, water rushing in, people getting injured, people being thrown from boats, people dealing with sinking ships. And it's how he keeps doing it, and it just keeps getting more and more impressive. It is really incredible what he's able to do with that kind of stuff.
I mean,
the ships that he built, the building. Oh yeah, that might be my ultimate takeaway from this. The actual construction and production design that went into the physical aspects that they shot of this movie are insane. It is what movie magic could be. His blending of performance capture and
the mixed reality was amazing.
It was really, really
you couldn't
successful.
tell. There were times when they switched to digital models on those ships and you couldn't tell.
I mean, it was honestly, it was fucking nuts. Not to do with the frame rate thing. We'll talk about that because those are the only times it took us out of it, I think, a little bit. But I left this theater, even as I'm probably the most critical out of the three of us, it sounds like, and I still had a good time. And I left the theater thinking, only in an Avatar movie can you have that kind of experience. I might go back again if you want to have that experience again. It doesn't exist anywhere else. He owns it. It's exclusive to Avatar.
The whales had henna tattoos. What other movies are going to give you that kind of specificity?
And shit like that, we'll just let it go because they never even talked about who put them on there. Of course, we assume it's
There's
them.
There's a lot. I would say other things do justify these things.
I want to say, you get a whale on Earth and try to give it a henna tattoo, it's going to kick your fucking ass. So
Earth whales would never let us get away with that.
Shout out to the whale. Good movie.
Before we move into spoilers, I need to talk about two things.
Okay.
The facial rigs and the water sims. Because, oh my fucking God, those water sims were amazing. I am in awe of what they pulled off. They must have recoded half the
explain that for my family who listens and has no idea what you're talking about. And
basically, the oceans are pretty easy to do. So the ocean surface, that sort of thing. Anytime you saw shallow water, though,
Oh yeah.
That is very, very hard to do. Like people coming out of shallow water, the water drops falling off them, things running over other objects and stuff like that. Like the one scene where he's tightening the belt on the creatures they ride, and you just see the splash of water.
Yeah, the
there's an
built-in
argument going
horse
on.
collar, yeah.
Yeah, there's an argument going on Reddit right now as to whether they actually shot real water there and used it because it looks so fucking real.
They actually put those little mocap balls on the water.
Yeah, I don't.
Little mini ones on all the droplets.
I don't know, to be honest, what part of that was real and what part wasn't. I suspect it might actually be water sims.
Fuck it,
and
it was all real.
If they've recoded those to that level of detail, it understands one why this movie took so fucking long to make.
Yep.
But also, it's like that is some next level technology that none of us have access to yet.
Guys,
Oh, you can't do that at home on DaVinci Resolve?
I
You can't make
cannot. No, I've got Houdini, dude, and I can't even do a water sim like that. Like,
how many terabytes of Avatar erotica do you think this guy
Actually, this
has
sunk
written?
FTX. They used too much energy, and they needed to use their cloud software.
I mean, has James Cameron had a normal sex dream since he started dreaming? I mean,
Does he know how bad that is for the environment? Has he had a normal sex dream? I actually wrote down, and I was questioning how long my family would listen to this before
all
I
I
said
said
this.
was how many terabytes, and you knew what I was about to say, dude.
I wanted to say, like, how long is my family going to listen before they turn this off so I can say this? But I wrote down, did James Cameron ever fuck the ocean? That was a thought that I had
The
after
ocean, the
this.
avatars, he's
Not
just...
anything inside of it, just it.
just getting back to my boring technical stuff. The facial rigs. He came out basically before this movie, and he straight up said to people who were interviewing him, Marvel can't do the level of detail we can do on faces. And I was like, you arrogant fuck. Like,
You're right.
how dare you say that? And he's like, yeah, look at Thanos. It's all like, blocky and that sort of thing. And then I watched this and I was like, oh, fuck, he's right. He's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Like the detail that these rigs are capturing, like the hardest part is the mouth, obviously, because like they never quite got the mouth right. It's like why Moff Tarkin in Rogue One kind of talks out of corner, like this. But yeah, it's the detail on this is both like absolutely amazing and horrifying for digital doubles because they have nailed it. This is an absolutely 100% realistic, granted they're blue aliens, but it's a 100% realistic human performance. They've captured every possible expression they could. They've captured every curve of the lip. It's phenomenal. Like they must have built something phenomenally new and detailed for this.
And they must have built
it's
it
very exciting.
5 years ago or 6 years. You know what I mean? Like if they were filming with it 6 years ago. It's just...
I mean, you film with the basic building blocks, and then you add that detail later. But like if they were mocapping with this, they had to have that technology. So
James doesn't like that term, Dave. He calls it performance capture. He does not like calling it motion capture. It bothers him.
Okay. Oh well, sorry, James.
That's for James. John's gonna drink for James.
I'll drink for that.
But you know what?
Terribly
in
sorry.
his defense, what are we talking about right now? Like it worked. Like whatever that mindset drove his anger in production meetings to push it further and further with technology, it served its purpose. It looks fucking incredible.
It's so amazing. I didn't have a snarky comeback. I just took the note.
I mean, what blew me away was the blending of performance capture and visual elements. Let me give you an example. There's a scene where they are pulling themselves up onto a rock out of the ocean. So it's another shallow water scenario. And I mean, you cannot fucking tell what's real and what is, totally
I don't think
VFX.
any of it was real.
Except for clearly just their skin, basically. Like this. You don't think any of that was real?
No.
Whoa. The opposite. Whoa. Wow.
To bring this in because I feel like the story.
Anything involving the Na'vi is 100% not real. Like they're not there. So that's a water sim running off them. On top of all the animation they're doing already.
You don't think they just shot them climbing up onto a rock and then put the Na'vi?
No, the rock would have been just a set in the open stage. The rock, that whole scene is not real.
Really.
Yeah.
Unreal.
To pull this back to the movie, because I think the conversation among everybody seems to be the effects are amazing. You were in the world. It was breathtaking. It was mind blowing. You thought Top Gun was going to win all the Oscars, but this actually is.
Yeah, this is going to fuck Top Gun up, sadly.
And the story is the same. Nothing new. It's it's the purpose to
for a film that apparently had no visual effects and is up for a visual effects Oscar.
But I will say that all of these things we're talking about, it's not just introducing us into the world. Like, what's a movie? Oh, honestly, I hate to make the comparison, but like Wakanda Forever, when they showed the underwater sequence, it was so quick, and they did. It's not their fault necessarily, but like it would have really bogged the movie down if they took this kind of time. It was just a different kind of movie.
Oh, Ryan Coogler's going to see this and sitting there just going, "Fuck me."
Well, he's gonna sit there and be like, "Look, I didn't have the time. My movie's not. The movie was about Wakanda. It wasn't
He's
about
on the phone
this.
to Weta right now for Black Panther 3.
Well, if he made a movie about that, then he would have gotten knocked, and he knows it. He was in a rock and a hard place because I bet you he really wanted to spend more time to learn about this new civilization and culture that is relevant and has storylines that overlap and such. But like, they rushed it, like there was just nothing else you could be said. I don't even remember what it was called. I don't remember any people that
they couldn't go too far into it either because they don't have the rights to that character. They can't use Namor by himself.
Again, totally handcuffed.
Yep.
So this though. And maybe I'm just going to say think Disney for this, because you're right. It's not a lot of plot, and the kid bullying stuff. There's nothing new or original about that. I wrote like Land Before Time was an example of when they go beyond the ridge and you go out into the ocean a little bit and the bullying and stuff. I'm not there's no spoiler really thing, but like, so it's a little Disney like. And yeah, maybe all of this is just to set up a good battle sequence, but I was along for the ride. And so to sit there and be like, because there's no plot, therefore it's boring, is your point of view. That doesn't necessarily, whereas with Marvel, I do feel like people tend to fill in the blanks a little bit more than I do, where they say, oh, but this character, but that character. And it's like, okay, that's not what I saw.
Marvel has
what
that whole backstory.
When I saw this, I saw this kid get bullied, and I was along for the ride. I really felt this experience happen rather than just
I'll reference it back to the guys
it wasn't just
behind
learning
me.
new information. I was experiencing the news. So it was a part of me by the time we got to the battle. I felt like that was
when he got to like hey, look at this hand. It does amazing things.
I still don't really get.
The guys,
I get why, because they were happy.
But like the guys behind me were pissing themselves laughing already because they knew what was coming. We all knew what was coming.
Yeah.
Show me your fingers. Yeah. I think
should we go into spoilers?
Let's go into spoilers. Yeah.
All right, we're spoiling this movie, people.
We're
that was
ruining it.
That was a long time without the spoilers.
Yeah, we're like 42 minutes in.
Crazy long time.
But
it's okay. It's relative to the length of that movie. We're still dropping the bucket here.
That's all the people that listen to us, because we do want to say things that are a little different than the other stuff I've been hearing about.
I think the only sequence, just talking about this, that I really did get, like, my red flags were starting to go off, where I was like, why are we watching this? I don't really know what it's doing. Is in that first sequence where they're free diving with the other kids.
Yeah.
That really is the only time where it goes on probably 5 or 10 minutes longer than it needs to. And to your point, what you were saying about how stories are developed and you don't realize that. Yeah, sure. I think that was the only time where I really did feel like I'm not seeing anything other than them enjoying the world. And I think the only the only real obstacle that James Cameron is always up against whenever he makes any movie, but especially these movies, is that James Cameron is behind these movies. So like, that he's doing it. Like, everyone, the marketing is so attached to him and trying to push the technology forward. And so that was the only time when I was really thinking, these shots are just for James. They're not for me as an audience member. They're for him. He just wanted us to live in this world and to prove to us that it would be fun to have 5 or 10 more minutes of just them swimming through, because they had already established that they couldn't breathe very well underwater. They had already established that she had some things that she was able to do underwater that no one else could do.
And
so nothing new was learned.
Her name. Yeah. Let me look it up.
That I guess she could breathe. I don't quite know.
No, she didn't need to. I guess she could hold her breath.
Did we ever figure out who her dad was?
No. There are many, many theories about that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's Jake or the Colonel or
it's the planet.
The nerdy science guy.
It's Immaculate Conception, dude. It's the planet, dude.
It's
right.
Sigourney Weaver. Fuck the planet, dude. That was me on my first mushroom trip.
She went full Rick Sanchez.
Yeah, the werewood tree fucked her.
Been there. Yeah.
There's definitely a werewood tree thing. They're communicating across the world, right? And they have memories stored in there. That's fucking Brand, man. This is what Brand should have done. You should have gone in the water.
I just put a handbrake on a joke right then.
No, don't do it. No, that monologue where she's like, I'm not saying it's intelligent, but it's aware. It is aware. I mean, I was like, it was very sensual. I was like, this woman is fucking this planet, dude.
What the hell was her name? Kiri? Was that her name?
Kiri.
Sure. I mean,
I
I cared, but I don't know. Kind of the Game of Thrones thing. I still don't know if I can tell you any of the characters.
No, Kiri Sigourney Weaver's name. What's the daughter's name?
It was exactly like Mission Impossible. You care about them, but you don't know their names.
Exactly. I mean, you're exactly right.
I remember Took.
When you're right, you're right.
Spider.
Yeah.
I don't remember the two sons. Older and younger is what I got.
Just remember
Took was fun.
That
was a fun addition.
Took was fun. What the fuck? There's Soraya, I think was and oh fuck, man, I don't know.
I knew them while the movie was happening.
Trying to look it up?
But yeah.
Are you just trying to look it up?
But I can't figure it out because I'm looking at who they are in real life, and that's not helpful.
Yeah, their IMDb photos should have been the characters.
I'm gonna get mildly critical because I want to do the compliment sandwich. Right?
I have one big criticism. I'll get to that after you.
You sure? Okay?
Yeah.
I also didn't love the way they did the exposition at the beginning where they were rushing it. Because we keep saying like, oh, the world building, it really slowed down. Yeah, but what else did they do? They fucking slept. The humans actually came back and they really could have used, I know this is a long movie, but I mean, we have to sit there, what's interesting? And one thing that's really interesting is that they get this colonel guy back to life, whatever. And that you have to know that that's a little cheap. So you really got to do a good job to pull that off. And they kind of yada yada it. We saw him come back to life and they just said, oh, the memories. Okay, fine. If you want to yada yada yada, that's fine. But then they come back to Earth. They blow half the forest away. So you have the whole deforestation thing that's going on. And then they time jump a year. I was like, that seems asinine. And then you have one train sequence and one little like tracking sequence, and then they have to leave.
The time jump did not sit well with me either, I must admit.
Well, it's like, okay, so
it's possible that footage was in there, and he's like, no, you can't release a 4-hour movie.
Yeah, and so he must have known that he was willing to take the loss on that. He has to know that he's going to take a hit on that.
We'll get a Disney special which covers that year.
We have kids now. We have yada, yada, yada. And then I really couldn't believe when they blew up half the forest and then they just stayed where they were and it said 1 year later. And I was like, what? You just yada yada over the best part. And then literally we saw one train sequence with the looting and then one tracking sequence and that was it. That was it.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm going to
And also Jake Sully sucks and Zoe Saldana's great. And they turned Zoe Saldana into Frau Farbissina from Austin Powers. Because there were she's the second most interesting character because I think this daughter whose name I forget is the most interesting character and they didn't go full Brand with her. That was really interesting what they could have done. And
I don't know, Zoe became interesting after the death in the film when everyone in my audience out loud said, oh, fuck.
Yes, me too. Well, because we all know she's the most interesting character, but the fact that she always needs to do whatever Jake wants to do because he's the man just proves that a grandpa made this movie. And that's why what I was trying to say before is he should have killed Jake. Because I think... Yeah, no, but I think the most interesting thing, but we all know Jake Sully is the least interesting character in this movie. Also, and there's nothing wrong with using traditional ways of looking at family and society. So man is first. The female leader is also very important, but tends to be a secondary role. And I'm not going to sit here and knock the movie just because they didn't get modern with that.
When we get to the other tribe, though, it's the other way.
No, it's not. That guy's still in charge.
No,
they want Kate Winslet to be the one to nod.
See him? Like, yeah, he was. He looked at her every time.
Yeah, but I think you're right. So James Cameron is aware of this, but I think Zoe Saldana turned. Yes, she turned when the son died, but the fight came down to Jake Sully versus the guy still, which is what was written in the script. I'm not knocking it for that. But it becomes fathers and sons and fathers, and I think what would have been really interesting. And this sounds crazy to say, but kill the oldest son, kill the father, and then the women have to take over. I really think that would have been a very bold move that would have justified a lot of this other stuff. But instead, we're stuck with Jake Sully still, and I think that's a big miss and a big loss. So those are my biggest.
That's the other thing, though. Like, we're gonna have there's this back and forth because he is definitely targeting her, not him. Like, he cares a little bit about Jake Sully, but he cares more about her because he's now found out that she killed him. So there's a rematch there. And I don't think they wanted.
I
don't think they wanted. Yeah, I don't think they wanted to do it in 2. I think they want to do it in 3.
They could have reintroduced They could have introduced a new villain in this. That could have been interesting, but they decided to go Kylo Ren. But anyway,
I agree, dude. I thought that they were going to go that way, and I thought that Jake was going to be the one who gets killed, because I do agree. I feel like they kind of put her in a little bit of a box with this one.
People were laughing when she was like, da, 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 and she made these loud noises. People were like, ha, ha, ha. And I was like, guys, she's becoming a gimmick. This is too bad. She's definitely the most interesting character of everybody because she accepted Jake. This whole story is because of her. She accepted him. She convinced him to become, and the power is in her vulnerability. And I feel like we could have used more from her and Jake. There's just nothing we could do about Jake. Also, the most interesting part about Jake is that he couldn't live up to his brother. He was the perfect Marine and Jake wasn't. You know what I mean? And that part is not in this movie either. So
it's absolutely in this movie. Are you kidding? The two sons.
But not from Jake.
One's the perfect warrior, and the other one is constantly trying to get the attention.
So why do I need? Why do I need Jake?
Jake?
Why do I need Jake Sully now? If it's you're
right,
Jake's
Jake's message in this one was that you can't run away from your problems. If you run, they find you anyway.
Not an episode of Seventh Heaven. He's the lead of a major franchise.
All I'm hearing is you actually had a lot more criticism, and you fucking pussed out in your opening.
No.
Because I agree with everything you're saying. I think my biggest, I wanted that to happen with Jake too.
The story was thin. I wish they made some different choices.
Well, I mean, me too. I think that would have made the story more interesting because the story was kind of thin. It was a lot of very traditional stuff, which is fine because, the storytelling is so profound and so state of the art. But I was hoping that was going to happen, or something like that was going to, I was waiting for something to be subverted. And I do completely agree that the opening in general bummed me out. Even that first shot through the clouds, I was like, did they just throw that in at the last second? Like the very first shot, I was like, that feels cool. Very unintentional. Like you just kind of come through and then you're here, and then building up to the time jump.
There was a definite fade out and back in there as well.
Like literally, it felt like they rendered it last minute. They were like, just throw it in there, and it doesn't matter. Just we need to have something so the voiceover doesn't start in black. And the voiceover didn't bother me. They had established that before, so it's part of the language in the first one. But then when I didn't even mind that they built very quickly into having a family, but I do agree. I was so blown away visually by the humans coming back. That was incredible. The destruction of the forest.
Immediately destructive, yeah.
Unreal. I was like, oh my God, this is apocalyptic. And then the way
they build those new, the way they put, I think that's new technology where you open and then you have you immediately went into let's build up camp in a way that has never been done before, right? Like it was very Terminator-like where you created this new futuristic society and it all checked out and we got like 3 minutes with it. Sorry, back to you.
Yeah, no. I guess that's what I was. Every time that James Cameron thing I was talking about earlier, I felt like Dave, maybe you're right. Maybe he shot plenty of other stuff and there's an hour of extra movie where he spends more time in the forest. But there was the first time I had that, damn it, James, like, I know you want to go to the water like more than anything else. You just want to go back to the beach. But I felt like he missed an opportunity for me to feel the longing of leaving the forest. And he kind of yada it. They had to do it. There was a reason to do it. It's not that it didn't line up with the equation of storytelling. But
so there's danger in that. They had to know that they're going to bring danger with them too,
Yeah.
Well, that
I
was
just wanted them to fight.
They said that several times.
I was expecting this to be a little bit more. Not expecting is not even the right word because I didn't know what to expect. But the way it ended up playing out, he put so much weight on getting them there as quickly as possible so that we can have, fruitless meandering swimming around in the water. I'm sorry,
quickly as possible. There's a fucking hour in.
Relative to
it wasn't. I don't think it was an hour actually.
I don't think it was
because
an hour.
I was like, do I want to pee? 45 minutes. So we were still in the forest at that point.
I think they had left before that. But relative to the length of the movie, it's still pretty quick. It's still relatively quick. Relatively. I guess I was expecting this to be a little bit more like Cloud City and Empire comes in. And it's not the same thing. I know they don't end up spending the rest of Star Wars in Cloud City, but it gets introduced in that movie kind of late in the game. But it's still, it becomes it's just an environment for people to have their new circumstances taking place. And I think if he had treated it that way, where we had spent a little bit more time in the forest, created a little bit more angst for us to have to leave, and then forced this family into this new environment. The actual turn at the end where he says, literally indicates and says in the last voiceover, "This is our new home." It would have been more of a deliverance for me. I felt like he wanted me to get that message for the last 2 hours because he really made me feel like the filmmaker was excited for that to be their new home, even if the characters were still building up to it.
Speaking of like old movies like Deliverance, was that an Apocalypse Now out of the water shot that I spotted in the middle of that?
Absolutely, dude.
yeah.
When Jake like fucking pops up, yeah.
That was cool. Wait, I want to shout out one shot because I want to bring it positive again. The shot is very similar to the shot in the Batman
shots,
with
right?
the
It's
upside down.
unbelievable.
For me, it was, where's the horizon? It's on the bottom. Where's the horizon? Yeah, the one where the horizon's on the bottom, and I was like, what world are we living in? And then the camera was upside down and it flipped.
Are you talking
3D,
about
I like
when he's swimming with the Cocoon?
yeah.
Yeah, full
And then
fucking
flipped
vertigo.
upside
That was
down.
awesome.
I was like, how has nobody done that before? I was like,
Holy
that is
shit.
so effective.
And
It's
I
so
don't care.
beautiful.
But also, we talked about like the focus and the changing frame rates and stuff. But that was perfectly in focus the entire time
Yep.
he shifted, and that was like
They
fucking
rendered that thing like
breathtaking.
50,000 times. They were like, no, there's a mistake.
Yeah.
Guys, tell me if you felt this way too. I was like squinting when they were underwater because like when they start getting pulled through the water at those high speeds, I was like, the only technical thing that is consistently bothering me is that they are vehicles, his family, maybe not the new ones, because maybe they have, their eyes blinked sideways like some amphibious creatures and serpents. Theirs did not. I was like, close your eyes a little bit. There's no way that doesn't burn the shit out of your eyes getting pulled through the water at like fucking 50 miles per hour.
You don't think they have
They
like
didn't-
the
they
little
didn't, like,
film over it or whatever? Like
ow, like
snakes?
when
they'd only
he told the
happened-
thing to go full speed, he did
That
it.
was the only time it happened when the
Yeah.
Cocoon pulled him like 100 fucking kilometers an hour or whatever the fuck it was. But I don't know. That was like, there were a couple things like that. And you know what? As you're working on tech, Dave, I know you can attest to this. When you're working on anything that is technical with films, but I think it's probably true for everything, the further you go and the better you get at achieving technical success, the more you see the mistakes. And they start to become more and more and more apparent. So like there were a couple
I don't know,
details like
was,
that.
That was the only time where I was like, oh, that's got to hurt.
So you agree with me that like you didn't like he kind of left it away. He just like didn't really talk about how that would have hurt their eyeballs.
No, that one time when he was like, go faster, and he started squinting, that was the only time I was like, yeah, that's got to hurt.
The
In
other
the
times when
entire
they were
film,
getting
it
pulled from
didn't
those
bother
other
me.
things, you didn't
Didn't
think?
bother me.
Have you ever water skied and gotten pulled underwater? That shit fucking hurts, dude.
Yeah, I've been dumped by an Australian wave, dude. It fucking hurts.
Anyway, I don't want to get started.
I want to say another thing that I actually. Sorry, you go ahead, Dave. You go
I
ahead.
did my one gripe that I had.
I'm going
God.
positive after this.
We're
so go ahead.
talking pretty much end of second act, third act. When they got into the battle, and we're into the battle, and explosions and gunfire and all hell's breaking loose. Where'd that other tribe fuck off to?
There was a bunch of
They absolutely left their fucking daughter and fucked off.
Oh yeah.
It made me
it's
wonder,
like the-
did he have the coverage and they just cut it out? Because, like, where did a lot of them go?
I mean, I know there was a
character
fire circle
they
around the
left
ship,
her
but
for,
like,
like,
Because we
yeah.
saw them at the end and they were all there, and it
They
was
were
like,
all
guys,
there.
there's still people on the boat. Help out.
Yeah, which basically means you
Fucking spider is helping out.
you
He
went
can't even
out and
breathe.
you saved your whales and you fucked off.
Good
did
point. Yeah, honestly,
no,
there were
that bugged
a
me.
couple of those. There were a couple tracking things where they like left, and it's like, why aren't they still tracking? You know, like, you're right, Dave. That, again, I just have to think Disney, which is funny
That
because
was my
Disney.
biggest like plot hole that I found. It scaled down and became just about them.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, did they shoot that earlier?
It's tough when you're editing those big action scenes. Like, you're establishing
Somebody
these
said
through
that, right?
lines.
Somebody said it. Somebody said it.
Somebody along the way, like, you
There's
mean when they were
5
making
story
these things?
credits on this.
Yeah,
Somebody
yeah.
said, "Where's the rest of the tribe?" The
Well, no,
daughter is staying with
it
the
was
dead son.
I'm sure
Okay.
the team of editors.
I hope the
I'm sure
answer
that-
was, oh, no one will notice, because fuck, I
Yeah.
noticed.
Some editors like, look, I'm in charge of this scene.
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
know
yeah.
it would help this movie if we saw one kind of greenish person as
Yeah.
opposed to this blue family.
Because like
Well, again,
you're
literally,
also-
literally
you're also dealing
the
with-
chieftain and the chieftain's wife, I guess, left their daughter. in the
And
hands of these
whale
people.
killed all the humans, which, by the way, got the biggest applause of the whole night
yeah.
when the fucking whale was killing humans. We're like, yes, whale, kill those people, kill those humans. But then there's no humans to fight. So
you
why
hear a
is
little
it that
Jaws
everybody
theme
else?
in there as well?
Okay. Wait, I did hear the Jaws theme. I'm glad you called that out. That was my other big yada yada that I was really pissed off about. Fuck you that they could figure out the whale's language that quickly. That bothered me
I was just
so
thinking about
much,
that.
dude. That
Nah.
whale was speaking in full fucking sentences to that kid. Before maybe Kate Winslet's character when she like, sister, I've known you my whole life and I grew up here.
Yeah.
Maybe even then, bullshit. Fuck you. It doesn't. They don't actually know how to speak fucking whale language like that.
I
way.
get the
But the
feeling, I get
kid,
the sense, but not actually like
when
language.
he was like, "Tell me what happened to you." Just show us that wonderful scene where you go inside and like touch the thing like that. That makes sense to me. And then maybe make gentle gestures. I felt bad, but like it just came out of my mouth. There was one moment at the end where like the whale said like 3 sentences to the kid. And I went, Jesus Christ. Like I just said it out loud. Like there's no fucking way that kid is listening to that whale say those 3 sentences. Why are we even looking at that subtitle?
For
It's
everything
ridiculous.
we've come out with in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's all of us. Cheers, guys.
No, fuck you. That was ridiculous, dude. That is James being like, they'll get it. It's okay. Just put it in there.
Yeah.
The subtitles weren't even that necessary. All I needed were the responses from the kid being like, you were hurt, weren't you? I know I was hurt too. Like that's all you need to do. It didn't need to.
I
I
hope.
don't know. I just thought it was weird.
I did notice you only got the subtitles after he learned to understand it.
Yeah.
That happened in a day.
Yeah, it did.
Right?
I mean, I'm sure it was weeks in film time, but yeah, a day.
Also, I'm going to say Disney, even though honestly, I think Disney would have, the Disney in the 90s that I know would have done it better. But they also, the language shift. I saw this in, I think it's called The 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas, where the language shifts. So they're speaking Na'vi, but we hear English. Gets really complicated though when humans come and they're speaking English, and then the Na'vi comes back and it's like, okay, where we, you know what I mean? And so it's too bad that I just have to say, look,
I love the way they did that.
No, but then the back and forth. I mean, we love it because it's convenient for us, but it is not realistic at all. That okay, good. They're speaking. Okay, cool. It's English, even though we know it's Na'vi because they said the line. Na'vi sounds. It's just like English now. But then when you have people speak English, you got to speak Na'vi, and they're speaking Na'vi, and it's like,
because that scene is from their perspective.
Yeah, but the perspectives get a little.
Talk about the Marines when they're the avatars.
Yeah,
when they're like,
because they can't speak it yet.
I guess I assumed that they didn't even try to do it.
Anyway, and Edie Falco did a pretty good job. I wish they kept her for more. I don't know what it is about all the Avatar movies where every villain has to just drink coffee. If she's on a ship in the forest. Okay, drink coffee on the main ship, but you're not drinking coffee in a helicopter. I'm sorry. Okay, but anyway, again, it's whatever. It's a Disney movie.
Sometimes you just need your fucking coffee, dude.
We're not dropping that, dude. Those Marines drank coffee.
I don't need coffee when I'm in a helicopter over the fucking Jurassic Park island. My adrenaline is high enough. I do not need caffeine.
Maybe that helicopter took off at like 8 a.m.
You know what?
Guys, they know that there's flying creatures that want to murder them. They're not sitting there going,
They've got 10 minutes.
Could you guys feel the tension? They built that. I guarantee you. They built that fucking robot arm. They wanted that close up of that robot arm bringing that cup of coffee to her. I could see there was a glimmer in Edie Falco's eye where she was like, this is good.
But that was she was like, this is cool. She was like, we didn't have any of this shit on The Sopranos. Yeah. She's like, I didn't get a million episodes.
She was fun.
In the third one, if she doesn't get away from her, you bitch line, I swear.
I wish I had more Edie, but anyway.
She didn't come back. Yeah, I mean, I guess we're supposed to believe that they were so
like we're gonna see more
far away. Yeah, like they were so far away, they just didn't come.
The daughter's got to take over this franchise, right? Unless they Game of Thrones it. But also, I think. Did I just lose it? Wait, hold on. Don't move. Don't stop. Hold on. Let me get it. Let me find it.
Coffee.
Yeah, sort of. Shit. It's gone.
What were some of your favorite shots other than?
At the end when the sun goes into the ground and the amoeba things like take him underneath. I'm all about. Maybe it's this mushroom documentary I watched where like fungi. Where like animals die on cliffs in the Arctic and literally mushrooms come and decompose the body and take them into the earth. And it's like the most stunning thing in nature.
Are you learning about the fungi network that runs underneath?
Holy shit.
It's unreal, dude.
But but again, our planet's amazing and people, because their religion and their religion of greed and money, whether it's actual like Christianity, which to them means I believe in God, therefore fuck the planet, because whatever, I'm gonna die and go to heaven anyway. Who gives a shit about the
Genesis?
planet? And yeah, sure, Genesis 100% checks out. Yeah, Noah's
God,
500.
it's not
but we
another
don't need to name
Noah
his wife.
episode.
Or of course capitalism, and I very Disneyfied. Obviously, it was like a little bit of an eye roll that all they took was the little yellow shit. But at the same time, like, just eat at least save it for food. You know
I
what
didn't
mean?
find
But,
that an eye roll at all because it was literally the wasteful nature of humans. It spoke exactly
yeah,
to
exactly. So that's why I would say it was
like,
a little
I'm going to
justified.
take this one little thing. I've killed this whole fucking creature for this one little vat
wish they
that's
at
worth
least said-
$80
Shark
million.
fin soup.
I wish they at least said,
Yeah.
well, some vultures will eat it. It won't get wasted. I wish they said a line like
It
that. I know
got
that's
wasted. It
stupid.
was still laying under the water a week later. Like,
I wish.
Yeah, we do that.
I wish.
we do that.
I wish they at least said we should. Oh, it doesn't taste good, but like the ocean will eat it. It'll. I wish they just gave us a little something. But it was literally just all we need is this. Thanks. But at the same time, I do think that. I do think that for this particular movie, which I think was a Disney version of what could have been a really cool adult PG-13 film, which is what Avengers wants to push the age limit on these kinds of movies. Avatar did not. Avatar was trying to make a kid-friendly movie for sure.
Yeah.
And I
Good
do
call.
think that.
I mean, it definitely
I do
fell
think
within
that's
the
a good
PG. It
lesson.
only
If
had
I
one
was-
fuck in it.
Look, if I was 12 or 13 and I saw this movie, I really might think this is the best movie ever made. And I think that moment would have really fucked me up for a long time to sit there and be like, oh,
Good.
yeah, we do this all the time. We do this. Why does a diamond need, child soldiers to get it for us and
Yeah,
conflict
no,
zones
good.
and stuff? I
Like-
do think that. So kudos.
Yeah, I do think he pulled off the whole, the war against what is the worst of our race, and like how we seem to just
I
do
think
this
the last
without
movie-
any problem.
I think the first movie had, and I like the first movie, and even in rewatching it, I think the first movie had way more cliches than this one. So this one might have like plot and story structure cliches, but
Yeah.
guys, not everybody's a movie critic. Who gives a shit? You know what it's like? The other one had lines that were cliches, character cliches. This one was plot cliches, and great. Give me you write down a new original plot that you can pull off. You know what I mean? Like I was okay with it. I really was.
I was absolutely okay with this. Are we?
I feel like we're winding it down. Should we
Yeah.
talk about Kate Winslet being underwater for over 7 minutes and breaking Tom Cruise's record for an actor going underwater?
Yes.
Sure, yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know
Especially
that.
since Tom Cruise had an extended clip before this movie.
Actually,
You got that
I
right.
don't know if, I didn't see all the
No.
trailers, but are you talking about the one where he jumps out of the plane and thanks people for seeing Top Gun?
No, it's the one where he does the motorbike stunt from Mission Impossible, the new Mission Impossible film.
Oh,
He
I
literally
wasn't there
rides a
in time.
motorbike off the cliff and base jumps off the motorbike, and the
That's
whole thing
cool.
live with drones and
Oh,
shit.
I saw it in the
And-
trailer.
Yeah,
like,
and it
when there
was,
was
oh
released
my
months ago.
god, we were making so many jokes about like, yeah, wee, like.
No, there is a new trailer where him and Chris McQuarrie are in a plane or helicopter very high above, and they are talking and they're yelling. And he's basically thanking people for seeing Top Gun. He's saying it's going to be streamable starting next week. And then he jumps out of a plane and he continues the commercial while he's literally jumped out of a plane.
Yeah.
No parachute yet. He's just like falling out of the sky. Again, thank you so much for making
Yeah.
Top Gun, a big movie.
And
It
he
means
grabs
so
a
much
study,
to us.
takes his parachute, sucks the
you.
life out of him with his vampire teeth, and
That's
keeps
right.
falling. Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. It has nothing to do with Avatar, but the Oppenheimer trailer was cool. Apparently, it's There Will Be Blood does nuclear fission, but it looks cool.
Really
Yeah, I
cool.
love that they've apparently done the nuclear explosion practically.
Yeah, we talked about
That has
last
been the
week.
subject of much
Tell me it
ridicule on
didn't
the
look
internet.
like. Did it not look like the oil rig in There Will Be Blood? Didn't it?
Yeah.
I think it looks cool.
All right, we're done with spoilers.
There's more to say about this, so let's but we'll have to till next time until that daughter takes over because she's so
I think
cool
it's fun
and-
to. This is the last thing I'll say because I kind of made the point earlier. Try to imagine watching this 20 years from now in your rewatch of all of these movies. I think this one is going to fit correctly as the second installment.
Somebody's
Yeah.
gonna be high with a 3D TV that's like, I just want to live in Pandora for
Yeah,
an hour, and they're gonna be
and-
totally.
Yeah.
You know what?
They're going to watch
And
it
I
a
don't- I don't want
holodeck
that to-
20 years from now.
I don't want to sound like a criticism there because we can say that about all of our favorite big franchisee serial. You just want to go live in that world. But this one, maybe even more because it does rely so much on very
It's less plot.
traditional storytelling elements. It is literally just so you can say, I just want to go to Pandora. And you know what? I think that's what James Cameron's goal was. I think that from the reason he started, he just wanted to prove to people, I can build a world that is so fucking realistic and immersive that you're just going to want to go there and you don't really give a shit what
And
happens
you know
once
why?
you're there.
Because Disney is building Pandora.
Are they really
Yeah.
in the parks?
Uh-huh.
Dude,
I'm pretty sure it's Disney. Might be Universal, but
here we go. The kings
One
of
of the-
erotica.
one of
Disney
the-
It's
Entertainment.
not Universal. Disney owns them. It
yeah,
would not
that's
be
true
Universal.
because they got bought in Fox. So yeah, they are building a Pandora.
The Lord of the Rings I push
Terabytes.
play on the most is just the first one. I just want to hear that opening credit.
Can't
roll. I
wait
wanna
to
hear
see the
music.
cosplayers for that one.
Yeah. I want to hear the music and I want to spend some time in Hobbiton. That's it. I don't want a scene with Gollum and Sam and Frodo. I want Hobbiton. I
Yeah,
want the feel.
it's worth a visit.
But that is also one of the greatest stories ever told. So I don't really want to compare those two things. because-
Touche. So, guys, as always, there's going to be some meat on the bones, but it's over an hour, so we got to get on into our final segment. What you've been watching, guys? Great conversation. Thank you so much. I'm only going to regret a couple things I didn't say, such as life. But now it's time.
What did you not say? Hold on, wait.
I have no
I'm not
idea. I
gonna
don't
let you-
remember. I don't
Oh,
remember.
okay. It doesn't matter. I thought you were saying you're holding
That's what
back.
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Focus on your similarities, not your differences, people. And go fuck the ocean. All right, people, it's time to get into our final segment. What you've been
Sometimes
watching.
the ocean fucks back.
Sometimes. Sometimes there's a werewood tree underneath that you can just link up to and
Giggity.
feels sprout. All right, Dave, let's start with you in our round of what you've been watching. Any recommendations?
I had
Anything you wanna
one of those hell weeks. I was complaining last week about my work week where it was like 70 something hours in 6 days, and this week work went hold my beer and gave me 70 hours in 5 days. So I didn't see much. What we did do though,
is make time and a half.
I did a rewatch of Black Adam with my wife. She loved it.
Oh, cool.
Oh, okay, good.
Great.
She thought
See,
it.
critics,
Well,
we like it when people like
if you watch it to the end, it's got Henry Cavill in a tight spandex suit and The Rock in a tight spandex suit.
Okay.
So yeah,
you
she
watched
loved it. Yeah.
So she loved the credit roll?
No, she liked that. She actually liked the whole movie.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of. She doesn't like superheroes that are angsty, which is where Marvel went for a while. So she kind of got turned off.
Touche.
So like Black Adam was straight up. I did this. I didn't do this. Then it was revealed something else happened, and yeah, it was a decent little plot development.
Yeah, guys, Bones and All is better than that movie. John.
Do I buzz you for that or not?
Yeah, whatever. Go ahead. I only got a little bit left here, so go ahead.
Part of the raving review from one of my co-hosts, I watched White Lotus the second season, and then I did enjoy it and I thought it was good. So press play on the first season. I'm a couple episodes in, so that's all I've done.
Gotta finish it because the first episode wasn't my favorite, but I got into it. I really did.
Of the first season?
The second season. You never seen the first season?
That's what I was saying. I watched all of the second season because they're kind of standalones, right? Like, and now that I really know that it truly like what the connecting tissue is with Jennifer Coolidge, it doesn't matter. I don't feel like I lost anything by watching the second one first.
Okay.
It put me in a weird space too. I feel like Mike White very successfully like puts you in that weird vacation brain.
Yeah,
where,
on
like,
purpose. Yeah.
I kind of feel like it was like it was a little delirious, like watching it and finishing it. Like I kind of liked it and kind of hated how I felt like nobody was really achieving anything. They're just having conversations. And so
it's
like,
got to be
he's
satire
very
because why
successful
are they eating at the hotel every night? You know what I mean? It's got to be satire because if they were in Italy,
because that hotel
Everyone
is
is stuck on that.
unreal, dude. I want to go there immediately. I don't want to go have fights with Elizabeth and fucking ruin our relationship like everybody else does in this show. But I want to go to that resort and I want to fucking, oh my God, that was gorgeous. Sicily, shout out.
Yeah, Sicily. Yeah, let's do it. If we get hits in Sicily, we're just going to start shouting out fucking
Yeah,
cities.
we'll start doing
Lord
guest
mercy.
appearances over there. Someone can
Pretty
fly us
good.
over.
How about you, Jeff? What did you watch?
Okay, so I did not watch. None of us have seen anything Christmas related, which is great.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to start tonight.
Well, first things first. This World
You can
Cup
watch 8 different versions of Scrooge.
I heard the
I
World
can't
Cup was
wait till
great and I was
Christmas.
fucking working
Guys.
all weekend on some projects and I missed everything. I heard it was incredible.
Guys, this whole World Cup was great, and Qatar is the whole thing is so. I'm happy that an Arab country got the World Cup. It was obviously just riddled with corruption and death and crime.
Dude, 3 reporters died in like 4 days.
5,600.
It was a little
true.
dicey.
I mean, not as many as migrants who died. It was really the whole thing. It was insane.
Well, security guard died as well. He fell off one of the upper levels.
Oh man,
Like,
yeah.
And he wasn't drunk. We know.
Guys, can I just talk about how it was great? Yeah, but you're right. That's what's funny, because we should remember that this can't ever happen again.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally moved the World Cup to the middle of the soccer season for other, not the middle because it's getting cold now, but like, you know, other leagues would have been playing by now.
Yeah.
And they had to stop because it's too hot and cutter during the summer, even though South Africa is the middle of fucking winter, but we still played the World Cup in the summer for us then, and they just had to wear long sleeves. But we moved it for Qatar because it was too hot, and they had to build new stadiums, and migrants died, and goddamn, this fucking World Cup was amazing. It was so good. Both semifinal matches were kind of blowouts, but really fun. This World Cup final was so incredible. But I also watched a movie too. I watched. I really think that this is an important movie. I listened to the James Cameron videos about, you know, why he makes these kinds of movies and all of his movies and the activism.
What did you watch?
I think The Big Short is one of the most important movies of my lifetime. 2012. I think the way that they were able, is it 12, 14? Doesn't matter. 2015, 14, 15. I think that the way that they were able to make that kind of satire and something informative and educational, also really entertaining. I don't think I like just Steve Carell and Ryan Gosling, those characters. Anytime they're in a scene, I eat it up. I've seen some of their scenes 10 times.
I could watch that movie on repeat.
That's the movie me and John saw by accident.
It's so incredible. It's so incredible.
Yeah, we were going to see, I think it was Hateful Eight, or it was something. It was something that was supposed to be on, and it wasn't on until the next week. We fucked up the time, and so we ended up sitting in this one. And like it's like at fucking 10:30 at night. We're sitting in The Big Short, and
it is so great.
Like John's just sitting back having a laugh, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh fuck me, I understand half the things they're saying because I've worked in a bank for too long."
Yeah.
Some
of them require 2 or 3 viewings. So anyway, I wanted to see something similar, so I watched Margin Call for the first time, which is an incredible cast. Obviously, it's very white, but it's very telling of the time. It's Kevin Spacey, Jeremy Irons, who anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge Jeremy Irons fan.
Who isn't?
I'm typing.
Stanley Tucci, Zachary Quinto, Penn Badgley, Demi Moore.
Jeez.
And it's a fictionalized account of basically how fucked up the system is to create that. So unfortunately, they only use the word mortgages once. I feel like they could have informed us a little bit more about what happened. But they essentially, it leads up to a fire sale of stock that they know is fucked up. And so if you've seen The Big Short, it's almost like we just take a little tiny segment of when they knew that they were long on housing and they were idiots because they were literally ruining the housing market that they were long on. They were ruining mortgages for everybody. Everybody was defaulting and they didn't give a fuck because they thought everybody needed housing. And all these people were betting against it. And rather than owing these strangers billions of dollars while also destroying the very market that they created, they sold these burdened assets to other unsuspecting dickheads, then gave they just literally bank greed just ruins the planet, and they knew they'd get away with it, and it's so fucked up. And Margin Call is just essentially one of the banks doing that for one day, hedging their losses to an unsuspecting market that didn't exist before and should never have existed in the first place. I know that sounds really specific and it's ahead of my like brain capacity anyway, but I do think they do a really, really good job. It makes you hate them.
Did they cut out the bit where they went to the government after that for a bailout?
No, how fucking funny is that, right?
Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
That's the best part of The Big Short. It's just that Steve Carell monologue that was like, they knew that if they were toast, the economy was toast, and the government would save them so that they could do whatever they want. That's like the most important part of the whole fucking Big Short. Anyway, sorry, we're dragging on, people. Anything else you two want to say before we head out?
Nope.
Thank you,
Terabytes of Pandoran erotica.
Guys, that is the cloud software he is using is not good for the planet. I hope he knows that.